You're listening to the Horizon Podcast. I'm Josh, alongside Bango, Annalise, and Ben. Today's topic, a little bit interesting just because how new it is. So there's been discussions about microchipping in humans' brains, and the big company involved right now is the Elon Musk company Neuralink, and they just had their first ever successful human trial. So we're going to kind of break it down, what's been the results. We got some polls from just what people have said on their thoughts on it, and then we'll all weigh in for that. So just going off this, so as I say, Neuralink first person got the procedure. They said he made a full recovery, and so far is showing signs of improvement. And so far, the only technological advancement that they've made is this person, who's unnamed, can move like a mouse cursor with their mind. Like, you don't need a mouse or anything like that. So that's still like in its infancy stage, but that's just what's been achieved. And a lot of people are saying this is good. A lot of people freaking out. And I got a poll from Forbes that they polled 1,500 respondents, internet users, from the ages of 16 to 64, and the breakdown of this is it's about 29% of people are against it, and then 29% of people are for it, and the rest split for they rather need more information or they're neither here nor there. And I kind of want to ask you guys, so far, first impressions, just that idea of getting an implant. I'll start with you, Ben.
So what is Neuralink?
So basically what the whole plan is, so it goes into your cerebral cortex, okay? And that...
Isn't it?
Well, it affects like your language, memory, speech, emotions. So the idea there is what they want to do is create like a way that you can interact. You can interact with computers. You can have like, let's say like how you have your cards saved on your phone or your computer. That's in your chip. So if you're at a grocery store, all you gotta do is just pay using your head. It's all hands-free. Another thing they're talking about is trying to get like music played. It just kind of connects to your like to your ears, like your auditory senses. Like that way, like again, you don't need a phone. You don't need like aux anymore. So that's like what all this is like stinting from, but again, a lot of people kind of have reservations about it. It's such a new technology, and I'll say this, I think it's a risky technology. So again, first impressions, what are you thinking?
This makes me think of Star Wars: The Clone Wars with the brain chips in the clones' heads that make them all turn evil and kill the Jedi.
That's the one where they kill everybody?
Yeah, exactly.
A malfunction?
No, that was not malfunction. That's its purpose.
Still, but it goes like to show just like that's my big gripe with it. I'm like, if this, it's still a computer. At the end of the day, what it puts in you is a computer. So if you have like a virus, how is that going to affect your brain?
You just start spazzing out.
Well, that's when there could be high risk of seizures. But the big one that's scaring people is like if this like messes with your emotions. Like if you think of like CTE in sports, if your brain gets messed up, like there are guys whose personality shift and they assault and in some cases kill people because it damages the part where you control your emotions. So that to me is like the biggest risk about that.
It sounds just like that mind chip. I can't get my mind out of it.
That's my question for you guys is, for you, what do you see as like the biggest risk and what do you see as the biggest benefit? Kind of go for both sides.
So for me, I feel like the biggest risk again is kind of like what you said, like it's a computer at the end of the day. Like, if something goes wrong, you're going to be messed up. Also, just who is controlling this computer, who has access to this computer, all this kind of stuff. It's like, I feel like there's some big privacy concerns. So I feel like everything about it is risky. And honestly, I feel like it has far more negatives than good sides. The only really positive I can see is just, I guess, it making things easier. Like, but at the same time, it's like, if you're somebody who uses a computer, like, and you use a mouse, like, like, what is that even making easier? Moving the mouse around? Like, so, I mean, I don't really see what the point of it is. Or to have music playing, like, I feel like that's gotta be worse for you than, like, AirPods or whatever. And, like, I know some people think Bluetooth is bad for you, like, imagine getting, like, a chip in your head. Like, I don't know. It just feels like a whole lot of bad to me.
Well, you talked about like benefits. Like before we even started, all of us were kind of like, yeah, we're all pretty much to be against it. But Bengal, even you said you see like it being kind of a great thing, like speaking like in the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see? Like to you, like if they develop this technology and you could use in hospitals, what do you think would be like the best use for it?
I think it might be able to. Help brain-related illnesses, or because paralysis actually, I think it actually comes from the way the brain can connect to the muscle tissue, and also has to do with the spine too. I don't know. I feel like using it for medical reasons might be able to help people control their bodies again if they're paralyzed, or it might help reverse. It might even help things like schizophrenia too. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely not for the idea if it's like a permanent installment, because once you get it, I don't even know if you can like get it back out safely. If you can get it in safely, that's one thing, but can you like get it extracted if you don't want it anymore?
That actually brings like a really good point. Could you imagine like something happens to the chip or your part of the brain and they gotta like, because they drill, it's a 1-inch diameter hole in your head. That's how they implant these things. It's a full-on surgery you have to go under to get this. And here's kind of something I was talking about. Well, I was pulling up, and for that poll we talked about, the Fords one, they asked people, if you're against it, what are your top concerns? And Annalise, you point out privacy. That was the number one thing people were saying. Is this, can it be hacked? And if it's hacked, what can it do to you? And something that that Neuralink came out and said that the worst someone could do is just like disable it. But that kind of goes into, I don't know, you could still like, I'm not the biggest like computer science or like computer person in the world. You can still do a lot of damage to computers. So I think you're exposing yourself. And I think there's going to be an element, it causes panic. A lot of people, and if some people, they're very like, I don't want like the government or other people listening in through my laptop, through my phone. And it's kind of like, well, if you get this, you're kind of exposing a lot more than like your personal data. But you guys kind of talked, it was like, what's the benefit? Because to me, the big thing here is like, it's just like an entertainment thing. It's like, oh yeah, I can just sit in my chair and just turn on my computer. I can listen to music whenever I want. Don't need to pick up my phone. And, there is some like economical and like resourceful things you can use. Like if this ties into grocery stores, like if you bought a ticket for a concert or sports game, your ticket's automatically scanned, even movie theaters, like stuff like that. But here's my argument into it. I'm a big technology person. Love technology. I'm very good with it my whole life. When you start making it about making people less human, that's where I have a bit of a problem. Like one of the big like defenses against this is like, well, people have like steel rods in their legs when they're in an accident. People have titanium shoulder plates. Like there's still like these kind of anomalies that are already in like the medical field. It's like, so what is this thing? But my biggest gripe with it was just, I don't know. It's just like,
well, it affects your brain. That's like what makes you you. That's your consciousness.
Exactly. It's like of all things like this could help. Like there's even like some kind of prototype about your heart. But here's what I said. There was a feature in it that like it helped. It's almost like kind of getting it scanned. It can keep track of like just how much of like your arteries are clogged, how many beats per minute it takes it to your phone. So I'm like that can be like, that's my thing. That can be kind of helpful. But I think the biggest concern for me, and I'll ask you guys, is, at least to me, the biggest concern is just how sensitive it is.
The chip is?
Yeah, because like if it's gonna be like, if it's just like worst case scenario, it just stops working. It's like, all right, that just it kind of sucks. It just stops working. But if this shows like a pattern of people just changing personalities, memories start not holding as much, maybe even leading to more like brain diseases from it. It's just like, I don't know. Can you like really trust a company that's gonna risk that much?
I'd say, given how space ventures have gone, I wouldn't say so.
Right.
So you do that right.
Sorry.
No, I was done. Go on.
I do want to add, as somebody who has like a neuromuscular disease, like I would never in a million years trade being disabled for losing my humanity. Ugh. that, no, absolutely not. That sound like, even if, you know, there is the possibility of it being perfect and fixing everything, it's like, the risk is not worth it. And like, even then, like, how long is it going to last in your brain? You know, like, like you said, like, it could stop working, but like, you know, how long before your brain like dissolves it or something? Because at the end of the day, it is just like a piece of metal in your brain. Like, I don't think your body's gonna like having that in it.
Well, it's just like, and I've tried to look this up. There's no like determined like shelf life, but that's a good thing too. Say I'm 21 now, I get this thing in my head. 30 years now, I'm 51. Now it's like malfunctioning. It's just like, well, how long do these things supposed to last? Because to fix these things, you gotta drill another hole into someone's head. You know, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of money too. You know,
what are the risks of surgery for that? Like, what is the surgery itself? Let's get into that a bit.
So the company, like, they work with like local hospitals, and they will be like, all right, they'll have like a technician in, and then like actual like surgeons in. So the surgeons will do the operation of actually like exposing the skull and the part of your brain, and then the technician, along with someone who's had that kind of training, will implant it. But, you know, here's another thing that you kind of like brought up. People react differently. You know, medications that work for me might not work for you guys. You know, that's just how that works. So if this one guy, maybe he's just lucky, like, yeah, this just happened to work, but you do it to someone else, like, and I saw something where it was just like they're making even smaller ones that are supposed to grow for like kids' brains and everything as they get older. But it's just like, you know, how is that possible? Like, what if it like keeps them in like that child like state of mind because your memory is exposed? You know, like, how can you be so sure? That's what's got me. And I know how companies work. They make promises they can't keep. They promise their things can change the world. But and right now, like, the main promise is it's just another Bluetooth device. You know, this is Bluetooth. It'll just work for anything. It's just more carefree. I'm like, yeah, but now you're talking about being a thing you put in kids. I'm like, that to me is also a step too far.
So you don't insert Bluetooth into yourself, you know?
It's just one of those things where I said this, like, at the end of the day, this is still all brand new, no speculation, no one's trying to push anything, but, you know, it's kind of, where do you go from here? Where do you see the future of stuff like this?
If you put a chip in your children's brain, I feel like that should be considered child abuse.
I agree.
Oh my goodness.
We vaccinate our children.
But vaccines are scientifically proven to prevent illness.
There might be a day when technology does the same thing. You don't know how, I feel like we're going to live through a time when we're older where there's going to be moments where the new like brain chip comes out. We're like past iPhones. It's all about like brain chips, and like people who don't get them installed are going to probably be looked like dummies.
So you think the world will kind of move with this new technology? So if you don't get it, it's kind of like you're stuck in the past?
It has to. I mean, that's just the way the world works.
Interesting take on it.
I mean, the way I see it, you know, if I ever have kids, they're not getting cell phones until they're at least 16. And I mean, most people would call me crazy for that. But
I would.
You know, it's like, I grew up and I had a phone when I was like 9. And I think that was way too early. And now I have a phone addiction, you know. So I think just because the world has decided that this certain thing is okay, you know, we're seeing with like iPad babies now. They're crazy and they can't read. Oh my gosh, I'm sounding so mean. But like, these kids can't read. They're illiterate. Just because the world has shifted in the direction of, okay, well, all these kids need to have iPads and technology. I think some people need to look at this from the bigger picture and be like, okay, just because most of what these people are saying, you know, is right, that doesn't mean it's right. It's actually harming our kids. And so what if they are a bit of a social outcast? I think being slightly more socially outcasted is much better than having a rotten brain.
So you're very anti this next wave of like technology?
Not necessarily. I'm all for trying it out, but I think we need to be very cautious and very aware. You know, I'm very much someone who's open to change, but we need to be very careful about it when it's this high of stakes.
You should still have like limitations on what can actually be done.
Yeah.
And like kind of how you were saying, are you more on like, are you pro this, Bango, or are you just like, do you just feel like the change is inevitable? So I'm not for it, but at the same time, it's like you kind of have to go with the flow.
No, I mean, I love technological advancements.
Okay.
I want to watch and see what happens. It'll be interesting.
Like, if the AI that exists now compared to a year ago is like
next level.
Yeah, AI evolves so fast. There's going to be a moment where AI will be able to do things like cure cancer. Like AI will be able to do things that took humanity like centuries to figure out. So I don't think we should be like, let's stop, let's slow down. We're probably gonna live in a weird technological utopia, I think.
Well, I think the problem with that is there is going to be at a core a group of people who are so anti this. Oh, I can't think of like a better phrase, but almost like a technology civil war where so many people will refuse to take that next kind of level, and some people who are, and it's just going to be like, okay, so now like think about it, like you go to like a restaurant, they got to have payment for Neuralink. Like I've even known some people.
The TV had the same reaction when it came out.
Exactly. Like there was even like going to restaurants, like you had Neuralink. I know some like older people who still don't even have cards because they don't believe it. They still pay in cash. Mm-hmm. So now you need card readers. You need Apple Pay for some people. You still need to have cash in the register. Like you're just kind of accumulating more things, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just like it's just gonna be like a little bit more cluttered. And I'm not saying you gotta like truncate it down to anything, but I just think it's one of those things where if you kind of want to, because you're a business, you're trying to get as many people in the door as you can. So you accommodate, you get new features, you get stuff that draws people in. And that thing with Neuralink, it's very easy. But something I kind of just thought about is imagine like if you had a Neuralink when you're like a teenager and you go to your friend's house, do you know I have access to their TV? Do you have passcodes? Like talking about the privacy issue again, it's like where does that draw the line?
So another question is, with regards to that, is it going to be really expensive? Is it going to be a thing exclusive to just the 1%?
That's the big question too. Well, I've seen something where it was and again the price. This is not open to the public. It's still technically trial form. So like prices, some say it's going to cost a few thousand. Some say it's going to take like over 20,000. To me, I think the surgery is going to cost more than what this thing is because it's a computer chip, but having surgery, like, will this get paid for your health insurance if you want it? Well, are they going to cover this? Mm-hmm. Or are they going to be like, no, you're just trying to get something that is not helping you. You're just getting it because you want to connect to your phone. Like,
would you ever get the bootleg version?
Yeah, the Temu version of this.
Yeah, the Neuralink or whatever. Like, it would just be like a fake version of it. Would you get that?
Yeah, and you get the surgery behind an Arby's.
Yeah.
And they just shove it in your ear.
Honestly, I highly doubt that insurance would pay for it because, I mean, currently I'm struggling to get insurance to pay for surgeries that are going to improve my quality and lifespan. And they're arguing that it's not necessary. So I highly doubt that an insurance company would look at something like a piece of metal in your brain and go, yeah, that's totally necessary.
As much as that, most of us are pretty against this thing. What do you think so far as a reasonable price point? And I'm gonna ask you to consider these things. Your price point, try to include the cost of actually getting the surgery, the actual product, and for the product, just think of it as like a normal Bluetooth device. Try not to think of it as like this new like computer that can interact with anything. Just kind of think of it as like another Bluetooth. Like,
well, are there different versions? Are there upgrades?
Ooh, that's a good question too. But I was kind of like, just how much do you think is like, even if you don't want it, what is socially acceptable to pay for this thing?
Honestly, sorry, did you want to?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not an economics major.
For me, it's really hard to say on that because, like, personally, I already think surgeries in themselves are way too high. Like, why are we paying $30,000 for, like, a procedure that, like, is kind of necessary? And, you know, would universal healthcare change this? But aside from that, using, like, today's numbers and such, I would say at least, like, $300,000.
Really?
Based on my experience with surgeries and their prices and their, you know, recoveries and all this kind of stuff, the amount of money we've spent in my family just, like, on surgery, you know, for something this much of, like, an elective procedure, I would definitely say, like, at least $300,000.
Yeah. Either you guys got anything? Because I want
to know more about the upgrade thing.
Well, first off, I looked it up, and Neuralink, the company like that is with that company is everywhere. So they said they estimated 8,300 pounds, which is roughly a little bit over $10,000. But you kind of brought up what the update thing is. Would it be like a normal software update they use for your computer, for your phone, or is it going to be like kind of how Bingham pointed out, the new phone. Hey, it's a new chip, so come in and get another surgery. We'll yank that one out, put that one in. That to me has got to put a lot of stress on your body if you're constantly going through that. So to me, I'm like, there's just no way. There's no way you can make anything that isn't like a software update, because
how are you gonna do that? Like,
well, it's like if you want to go through 3 head surgeries a year for this thing, more power to you. But to me, that doesn't justify like most software updates are bugs fixes. Like, you're not getting crazy new features. That happens once in a blue moon.
what about like?
They can't have bugs in the brain chip.
And that's way more scary.
Yeah. What about the idea of like upgrades? Like, oh, you can get the one Neuralink, you can automatically buy stuff at the store, or you get deluxe mega version, you can also control the TV,
Kind of like
or you get the ultra boga version, you can drive your car. You can get that.
Neuralink Pro.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of or like
You know they do that.
well, the company that owns it is the same company that's like entitled with Tesla and everything. So it's like, oh, can you connect to like your electric vehicle, and like maybe like your GPS will be like more instinct with you. Like that could be like your own like version of it.
I did just look at Neuralink's website, and they are heavily marketing towards people with disabilities right now, which I think is very interesting and creates kind of a different perspective on it. I think this is being used more as a tool for giving people, like I know they said specifically quadriplegics, like the ability to move things. Like I said earlier, like how lazy could you be to just move a mouse? I think that's very different if you're somebody who literally can't move their arms. Like that could give you the ability to integrate into society. So I do see kind of a benefit with that.
To me, and if that's their true goal, that's great. But to me, that is a huge and tough promise.
Yes.
So, like, to me, one of my biggest gripes against humanity, people that scam people, that to me, you're up there with, I just can't stand it. So, to me, it's like I use, like, the example of, like, mega church, like, pastors who kind of, like, act like they can pray away your illness. And
Joel Osteen.
And people will believe it. And I'm just, like, if you promise something and you can put on a show and, like, have, like, that evidence, like, for example, that guy who went through the first trial, like, it's going to have people buying it. Like, and again, I said, if it's the true intention, I think that's super awesome. But to me, that's just very rough.
I'm going to be so real. This company's owned by Elon Musk. He gives me really big ableist vibes. So I'm going to say that they're just putting on a front. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to help disabled people, but actually we're going to take over the world.
That was something I was going to ask a little bit towards the end. Well, a lot of reasons.
Help the disabled people by destroying them all.
Well, a big part of why people don't want this.
Is this eugenics?
Yeah.
Is a lot of people aren't a fan of Elon Musk. So, like, I don't want to say you guys are a fan of him. Like, some people, like me, I really don't care. Like, I've never been like, oh, he's the new Tesla, like that kind of thing. But I'm also not like, he's crazy. But I don't look up stories. I'm not 100% sure what this dude has done. To me, he's just, it's like Bezos to me. Like, he's just another billionaire doing whatever he wants. I don't care. But, again, this is a factor, kind of his personality, how he interacts. This is going to affect Neuralink sales. So from your guys' perspective right now, thoughts on him as like a business owner?
He's an awful person. Just an awful guy. I don't know if you guys have seen how he got his money. He's just a Nepo baby and then, stole companies, and is just overall a really unethical guy. He also has like 11 children or something like that who he does not take care of.
I was like, that's bad? Okay, gotcha.
Yep, bad guy.
Yeah, the whole company of Tesla is he's sort of like their mascot, but in terms of the brains that went behind the construction of the company, there's like so many people that are credited with the actual success of Tesla, and they all say like Elon Musk was never involved. It was just he's just the guy who stands in the limelight for him.
Can I jump in and throw in an ethical question?
Well, I haven't said what I saw on Musk. Say, whenever I hear I don't know much about him, honestly. I just hear about him a lot, which annoys me because I tired of hearing about one person over and over and over. So, Taylor Swift syndrome.
Basically, I'm kind of in the same boat.
Okay, here's your ethical dilemma. Let's say a chemist has come up with a pill that cures cancer.
Okay.
how would you like that person to go about announcing that to the public? Would you like it to go to a academic journal that is peer reviewed and other, doctors and chemists look at the data, try to recreate the data, and see if it actually does cure cancer, or do you want that person just to tweet?
Well, that's well. Here's the defense to that.
Okay.
I agree with that. That's how everything should be done. But the thing is, who random guy works not in the academic field, just a random dude out there. He's on Twitter. He's not looking through academic journals. That's where the power comes into play. That's why this has such a further reach, and you can just say whatever you want without much. Because people, I don't want to say people are too lazy. It's just people.
They are.
Well, my thing is they're not incentivized. People have that notion. Oh, if you're a big pharma company, if you're saying it, there's laws. If you're lying to me, I get money, or the people go to jail. So I'll do it. Surely it's okay if you're just letting this be good due to the consequences. That to me is why most people don't fact check stuff. Cause it's oh yeah, it's that attitude. I'll just sue them if it's bad for me. What Ozempic, what that's going on with that. That's literally what that is. People are oh, now they get money, but then they don't think well, now I think I just completely did more damage to my body than I thought I was doing. That's where that comes from.
What's that going on about? I haven't heard of that.
So it's a lot different. I can't remember what Ozempic was originally used for, but
it's used for diabetic people to help them control their blood sugar. It's a life-saving medicine for a lot of people, but then people kind of hijacked it to lose weight.
Exactly.
Because everyone wants to be skinny.
And they were they had to come out and be hey, don't do that. And it's doing some kind of things to people's face. It's kind of messing with the structure of their body. And they had to come out and be you need to stop.
It basically gives you medically induced anorexia.
Oh, how pleasant.
What does?
Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and all those other medications, they basically just give you anorexia without...
you don't want to eat?
Yeah, it's less about the mental aspect of it, and it's just you are not hungry ever.
That's the medication. The medication I'm on makes me have no appetite at all. So I basically eat 1 meal a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you on Ozempic?
No, I'm on Vraylar.
What's that?
It's a bipolar medication.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, that's kind of what I was...
Sorry to be all in your business.
Yeah, hey.
What's your life story?
Yeah. Which Walgreens you go to? No, but it was... that's kind of...
antidepressant?
Well, that's what I was just saying. I was I've always said that... This is my thing. Vulnerable people can't be called stupid because they're vulnerable. If you're in a very bad health situation... Yes, you're going to go to the extreme in some unorthodox ways. To me, I think it's not necessarily rude, just kind of ignorant to say these people are they're just completely uneducated. Because it's if you go to this company, you feel you're protected. That's the big thing about America. You feel you're protected because you can sue anyone and anything. So you're just kind of at least get some money, but you don't really truly think how much money you're going to get till that Neuralink malfunctions, and now your motor functions are compromised. That's what people aren't looking for.
That's one thing I was wondering about Neuralink. So he said they're trying to market it towards the disabled. Would that be more for the physically or mentally disabled?
I think there's benefits to both, but mostly I think more physical.
Yeah, I think it's more for physical, so that way you can control things remotely rather than having to use your body. It's not trying to fix your body, it's trying to allow your brain to do more work compared to your body.
I think one thing it is going to bring, and I'll say this when kind of close to this, I think it brings a lot of competition, because hypothetical, if this shows a lot of evidence, yes, it does help kind of restore some motor functions, and you kind of mentioned some mentally health stuff. Now are these antidepressant companies kind of being hey, this dude, people are truly believing this thing's helping them, they're not buying our stuff. I think that's going to cause a lot of competition, and maybe because most companies, they'll find something. If he's stealing money from some company, they're going to be oh, this can cause some brain hemorrhage. That's what that is. They'll come up with something to make them seem bad. So I think that kind of competition will further divide people and kind of cause a little bit more scare and pandemonium with it.
I feel we're causing more problems than we're solving, or we're just causing problems to solve them.
I think it's more of, I agree with that, but I think it's more don't touch, like, the human body is really sensitive for all it is, especially the head and, like, the brain. So it's kind of like, you know, leave it alone for the most part. There's a reason a lot of motion and, like, diseases like that haven't been cured nowadays. It's not that simple as, all right, we'll just cut a little hole here, plop that in, and you're good. I think that's kind of like, maybe people are kind of like, I'm kind of sick of it, and now I can jump on this. And that, to me, is what I think is, like, the real unethical portion of it, of just what is going to be promised and what is going to be delivered. That's my final thoughts on this subject. Any from you guys, and then we'll close.
I could yap about this forever.
Yeah, you good? All right, perfect. All right, so that was our discussion on Neuralink. Again, very new in the process. None of this is you can just go and do. Still in the first human trial stages. So this isn't to cause panic or to completely tear something down that could be good. It's just, like a lot of people, we have questions, we have concerns, and with proper research, like, answers will come through, and then, of course, you'll be able to make the decision yourself. But this is us from the Horizon Podcast saying thank you for listening, and have a great week.
Bye!